Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sim Racing Alliance. We are here with Season 10 and Round 1. Boogity, let's go racing as the green flag jobs.
Looking maybe even full wide.
They're fanning out, there's a bit of contact. He's got the outside.
Side. That's a great move. He's got plenty of speed in there and he's being held up.
He's gonna have a better run. Yeah, it's gonna stick it on the outside.
Oh, that's a late move. 296 Ferrari though finds the space.
Oh, he didn't have it.
We're off and away for SRA.
Welcome again, everybody, to the Sim Racing Alliance. We're here with Round 5. It's Donington Park. We're going over to the British side. I'm with Alexa Marshall tonight. Selena couldn't be in the booth with us, but we are excited nonetheless. And Alexa, as I mentioned, across the pond over to Donington, a famed circuit. But, oh my God, these British circuits are something else.
I mean, yeah, that's just how we build them over here, I guess, as it is at Donington Park. It is hard to overtake, it is strict, it is punishing. 4.02 kilometres, 2.498 miles. In Leicestershire, England, it's good old Donington Park with 12 turns, and of course you go and start on the Wheatcross straight down to Redgate for turn number 1, turn number 2 and turn number 3 being the Cranach Curves, with turn number 4 with your old hairpin. Turn 5 and 6 is Starkleys Bridge, followed by McLean's for turn 7, Cop Ice for turn 8, and it's Starkleys straight down to turn number 9 and 10 for the S's, and then it's the Melbourne hairpin for turn number 10, and then the second hairpin back to back for good old Goodhards at turn number 12. Those hairpins are definitely going to be coming into play this evening. Probably your best chance for overtake if you can dive it down the inside. But if you go down the inside at the first one, you're probably going to be getting overtaken again into the final. Of course, you probably could get a good run down Starkleys Bridge or Starkleys Straight or around the outside at Cop Ice if you're brave enough. However, if you do end up going off track, you will end up losing a lot of positions. As Andrew did say, we build them very punishing over here. Hardly any runoff, and you're just completely surrounded by the greenery. As Andrew, over to you for the driver's standings.
Absolutely. I mean, talking about this track as well, it's going to be a little bit more punishing out here during qualifying, slightly higher temperatures, but the big story for this race, you can see here, Mia Rose leading the championship, 312 points, but the McLaren and the Mustang at this track are going to be on a slightly different playing field, I would say, because of the balance of performance coming in for today, and especially turns 9, 10, loads of time to be saved in that particular chicane. It's an incredibly punishing one. If you get it wrong, you really have to monster over the curbs, and the Mustang absolutely adores it, whereas the McLaren Evo is a little bit less of a fan. We're a Barbie team, I should note, is also a little bit close behind in the team standings, but Jeff Spangler was issued a qualifying ban after last week's race, picked up his, I believe it was his 4th penalty point for the season. You can see, though, a little bit further down the field, Guy Manperson comfortably leading the Silver Championship, about a 20-point gap to Landon Dreves behind. That's not to say that there's no challenge at all, but Guy Manperson has been fairly consistent out today, and there's a couple of drivers who were able to move up. Dominic Duran, you can see a gold driver. Everybody above him in the alien category, of course, is gold, but we like to represent our aliens in a little bit of a different light. I got a little bit of a barky friend behind me tonight. Thanks, Knox, for that one. But Dominic Duran, a famous win at Spa. Peter O'Brien also managed to finish on the podium, so some solid finishes from those drivers, and a couple more further down the field that I'd like to touch on, but it looks like we're starting to run a little bit short on time, so let's go through it rapid fire. Andrew Rottos, very famous finish. Gomer Wilson also had a good result. Estefano Barrera, further down in the order, actually was looking at a P2 before being crashed out by Mia Rose, and even further down here, you can see our second page of the driver standings. A couple of other stories that we're kind of tracking. Jacob Palmieri still not having the season that he would like coming into the second half, hopefully to return to form. Matt Lehman also had a quality qualifying session a couple of rounds ago, but was not able to convert it into a solid result.
Yeah, definitely not. You can get very unlucky with your results, and you definitely got to look out for it. Speaking of results, one thing also to point out, we've had 4 races so far this season. We're going to round 5. 3 different race winners over this season so far, and you got to wonder, with Donington Park, could we see 4 different winners in 5 races this time?
Now we'll take a look here at the team standings real quick. As I mentioned before, we're a Barbie team, 520 points trailing to Madhouse and CM with Michael Menning and Mr. Sir. Mr. Sir, who I said was a consistent finisher and actually leading his teammate in the standings right now. That's what you get for just consistently finishing on the podium and for spot just outside the podium, but still, you know, a very solid P4. Michael Menning with the DNF at Imola certainly threw a wrench in the gears. He had a wonderful recovery drive at Spa last week, but having to make a recovery drive is not a situation that Michael Menning wants to be in, nor is it a situation that he usually is in. So we'll see how things develop for them. You can see a little bit further down the field as well. Dominic Duran and Dan Cran for Plan E Racing, 393 points. Very solid pairing there. Jeremy Mercer and Peter O'Brien earning their spot on the team podium right now with 464 points. Very, very solid results for all of these drivers indeed, but it looks like qualifying is just about to start up. So we'll probably head on over there before too long and see what the drivers have got in store for us tonight, because I'm expecting a reasonably good one.
I mean, it's definitely gonna be a good one, and it's definitely qualifying is probably one of the major things that we're gonna be watching tonight when we realistically think about it. As with Donington Park being, well, not just Donington Park, with the British circuits in general being quite hard to overtake on, you've really got to wonder, can qualifying be the session that will determine your race winner? As if you can get up there on pole and just defend your position throughout the entire race, you could be on for a very good win here as all the drivers for Silver begin to make their way out on track as we try to find who is currently going to be the first person to be leading the Silver Pack. Of course, if you're new, quick run through for you. It is a 20-minute qualifying. First 10 minutes is for the Silvers, and final 10 minutes is for the Bronze. Very accurate temperatures this evening to real life. It is humid, it is dry, and it is hot. 27 degrees for the air temperature here in qualifying, with 35 degrees on the track. So you've got to wonder, PSIs that the drivers are going to be running, could their tyres start to heat up a little bit?
I mean, speaking from experience, you know, the brake duct's probably going to be a little bit more open for the qualifying run. And as you mentioned, the qualifying is going to be significantly important. As you can see the Pollard P taking there. I'm actually surprised that he didn't take the tire barrier on lap 1. I want to see if how many cars will make it through. We'll go on board here with Jacob Palmieri and check out on the passenger. And you can see that that tire barrier has been shoved off of what is the ideal racing line for all of these drivers. So Colin Dunham took out the standing orange and white pole, and then one of his friends behind him was able to take out the tire barrier and really open up the track. We're here for the first flying lap. It's a 35-degree track, as you mentioned, so a little bit warmer than they would probably like, but that means you have to be all the more precise on your first couple of flying laps, because it's not going to get too much better for your tires over time.
Yeah, definitely not. And as we head around the rest of the racetrack, it's of course pedal to the metal, foot to the floor as you head down through Cranmer curves and down to the old hairpin. Of course, you got some very... Of course, we name all our British tracks here, as that may have been invalidation, but it may have not. And yes, it was for Duran going off the track, and that was his lap being invalidated. He will not be continuing on his first lap. Going over to Mikhail Charles in the 873 Ford Mustang. As of course you mentioned, Andrew, the Ford going to be taken very kindly to these curbs this evening, heading down through McLean's and towards Cop. And nope, he's gone through Cop Ice, that's my bad. Heading down towards the S's of turn number 9. And
well, I think we might have just lost it for a second.
Oh.
But I think you're back now.
Hey. Yeah, he perks a bit across the pond as we head down into Melbourne hairpin. It did this to me at Spa as well. And then, of course, towards Goodhart's. And it's, of course, going to be pedal to the metal, foot to the floor once again. As Mikhail Charles, he's going to head around the final hairpin. And he's going to go all the way to the line to set the first time. Well, actually, that was Durance who set the first time. Here we go, up to the top. Mikhail Charles up to the top. Wilson's up to the top. The 414 McLaren with a 1 minute 26.972 for the time to be this evening so far. And he's going to hold on to it for the time being with Simons, Kish, Dorrance, Charles, all also setting lap times. We look at Landon Drebes in the Porsche 992 for GRR as he heads to the line up into P number 4, 1 minute 27, 2:57 for in the car 350 as Jacob Palmineri has gone up top with a 1 minute 26, 867. By the looks of it, if I am reading that correctly, it gets a bit tricky on the race control when it's purple on a black background. So it may be a little bit. I'm supposed to be wearing glasses, but I'm wearing headphones, and it's really hard to wear glasses with headphones. If you, as most people will figure out, as we continue heading around this iconic racetrack, and of course, I think everybody knows this. These racetracks are incredibly old here at Britain.
Incredibly old, incredibly punishing, as we talked about. Balance of performance is something I wanted to touch on briefly before we really got underway proper, but you know, things started up before I could really get into the nitty-gritty of them. So something I wanted to mention is the Mustang very far out in front with plus 25 kilograms of ballast for today's race. So you're going to see some drivers like Mikhail Charles, like Michael Menning, like Mr. Sir, really suffering in some of the medium speed corners, especially in comparison to the downforce cars that we're so accustomed with. This is Bailey Kish going over the line for about a half-second improvement. Nice little move up the field there, and the pole time has been improved to a 1:26.75, although as I say that, Jacob Palmieri once again lowers the bar, 1:26.6, and I expect to see these times continue to tumble. Colin Dunham managed to set a valid lap on his last go-around. It was a 1:27.3, and improvements coming pretty much for every single car on the field here. The McLaren Evo with 0 kilograms of ballast. I was talking a little bit about this in the pre-show while we were taking a look at the driver standings, and this is going to be one of the biggest differences, I think, in car performance for today. There are some other notable ones, of course, particularly the NSX with minus 20 kilograms, so watch out for Travis Nordstrom. But it's really coming down to the Mustang and the McLaren, which are the standouts for me. You're probably going to get a little bit more fair in the traction zones, as the McLarens are going to not have to deal with all of that weight bogging them down, similar to the Porsches, which only have plus 5.
Yeah, the ballast really does play a part in the performance, as of course it changes week to week, so you've really got so you do have to get used to the car a little bit again, doing quite a lot of practice to get used to the new ballast and just seeing how much you can push your cars. We head through the S's once again with Landon Drebes for GBR Blue for GIR Blue Flames. And his current lap time is a 1:27.020, almost flat. Can he improve on it? And it looks like he will be doing for the time being. Currently 3/10 stop. Will he lose it though as we head into turn number 12? Good old Goodhart's. And round the final corner you go. Pedal to the metal, foot to the floor as he heads to the line, and it is going to be P2. 1:26.655, less than a tenth to P1 currently, as here comes Guy Persa only up in a P4, 1:26.817, very close to Carpenter, currently sat in P number 5. Over to Brooke Quigg in the number 8 in the good old Audi R8, heading down, of course, once again through this beautiful circuit. But then again, I'm probably a bit biased because I am British and this is my home Grand Prix, don't judge me. But this is the one I've been looking forward to. And of course you head once again towards the S's, and sector number 3 is probably the hardest one to get right, because you've got to get your traction zones right, not only through the chicane but through the 2 hairpins.
If you see just how gentle Brooker was through the chicane, turns 9 and 10 specifically, it looked like, you know, the kind of line that, you know, myself driving the Mustang, having practiced the circuit, it looked like he was almost just, you know, tiptoeing through that little chicane. But it just goes to show that a lot of these cars really cannot handle taking it as aggressively as some of the front engine rivals. It's going to be a small improvement. I think there's some time to save there for Brooker out of Capes. You know, it's a very difficult corner to get correctly on the traction, especially in a car as twitchy as the R8, which I'll say again, for the sake of it, plus 10 kilograms of ballast, so it's definitely not a slow machine at the circuit today, as Austin Carpenter will also improve their time in the Aston Martin. But, you know, times are starting to kind of flatten out here. This is a little bit of what I was expecting. Track evolution isn't going to be so important here, with the optimum condition being where we started, the temperatures staying relatively the same as well. It's all about finding the proper window for your tires, and if you screw up a lap, you know, you might want to take a cool down.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably what most drivers are going to be doing around here, because if you're pushing the car lap after lap after lap around this circuit, like I said earlier, one minor mistake does punish you, and you want to iron out those mistakes. So going for a quick lap, hopping on for a cool down, and then going for a fast lap once again after that is probably your best option, but currently behind a Ford as the Ford lets him past. I do believe that is Mr. Sir, or Guy Manpersa. Mikhail Charles. Honestly, it looks like a safety car. Don't judge me. As we head watching good old Andrew Wilson up in a P number 3, slight improvement. Not too bad for him, as Durant is up top there currently. Currently watching Brooker Quigg as he has gone up into P number 4. As the Audi R8, as you see, as you look on the right hand side right there, 50 seconds until the gold drivers will be allowed out on track, and you can already see them parking up at the end of the pit lane.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a ramble over the curb there, the exit of Redgate, but time's continuing to come down here for some of the runners lower down in the field. I mean, these aren't necessarily lighting up the timing sheets by any means. I mean, a 127 flat right now for Colin Dunham is not the time that you would be expecting out of this kind of a driver. He was looking to have a soft performance last week at Spa. Didn't really pan out for him as much as it could have done, but he's up about 2.5 tenths right now. If he can get the braking zone right for the chicane and cut it just nicely, but it looks like it was actually a little bit of time lost there. As I mentioned before, finding the balance in the McLaren Evo is a major challenge through that fast and wicked corner. But if you can find a little bit in the traction zone, maybe it's just not so easy. These mid-engine cars really dance on the edge of what can be done with those front-engine monsters I mentioned, and having the rear engine in the traction zone. The Porsches can absolutely stomp it out of the hairpin. I'll tell you that one for free. It will be a minor improvement, but not what he was looking for. 1:26.872, respectable time.
Yeah, very respectable. And honestly, I'm going to sound so biased saying this. I am kind of annoyed that there is 2 Mercedes up top, because we are not doing good at the Euros. So I'll give you guys that one for free. I'm a little bit salty that we're currently doing pretty bad at the Euros in the football side. Probably not the best time of year to come to England. As currently watching good old Victor Diaz, and he is going to be coming around the final corner, currently 2 tenths up on his time, pedal to the metal, foot to the floor, going to be getting up to 3 tenths just about, and he goes up for a 1:26.620, very decent lap time there for the Porsche, as Guy Manpersa up in a P8 with a 1:26.817, as here we go then, the gold drivers out on track.
You said, sounded like you said, here we gold for a second, and I think you might have been actually accurate. Is this Mia Rose? Mia Rose, I think, is on an outlap actually right now, so well behind the remainder of the pack. I'm taking a look at my track map just real fast. We have it hidden by race control on our side, so you guys can see it nice and easily. But I think Mia Rose is indeed on the outlap, and Jeremy Mercer is going to be leading the golds across the line for the first time and beginning their hot laps. The benchmark at the moment, a 1:26.5, and there's not a whole lot separating the silver drivers. I'm looking at a 1/10.5 between first and 6th place right now, and it's not too much more further down the field.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just shows how close the actual top division is, and that's what you'll love to see. Formula 1, as of course, with everybody being in pretty much equal cars, everybody's just gonna rely on setups really, as we're looking at Jeremy Mercer heading around the right-hander, and once again as we head off board down towards the S's, and of course, even when you're on a lap, you've got to get these hairpins right, but when you're starting your lap time, you've got to get the hairpins right as well. As the first hairpin, of course, you've got to get the perfect line out for the second hairpin, as we go down, of course, to Melbourne hairpin. Don't know why we robbed that name from Australia, but that's kind of just something us Brits do. As we head out of it and pedal to the metal just momentarily, as you're going to head once again to Goodhart's. And of course, there is two types of tracks around here at Donington. Of course, we're using the longest circuit, heading pedal to metal, foot to the floor, up into P8 for the first gold driver, 3 tenths behind pole, 1:26.800 flat.
As Beck goes across the line, Eric Marecki also putting up a reasonable time. I'm expecting these to come down very quickly, but these are I mean, these are times that are being what I can put up as my personal best in, you know, a whole session, a whole like 60-minute running. So it's impressive stuff already from the Gold drivers here in Division 1. I don't think anybody would be surprised to hear that. That's Mr. Sir all the way to the top of the timing sheet with a 126.45. Can you even call it a banker lap at that point? That's impressive. Andrew Rados as well with a 126.7, and probably going to be looking for some major improvement here on their first couple of laps. This is already raising the bar to a completely new degree.
Yes, exactly. Like, you got to raise the bar and you got to push it to the max. As of course, everybody's going to be going Mr. Sir currently on pole with a good old very, very fast lap time, like Andrew just said, heading into the S chicane. And he goes well over the curbs. There is Peter O'Brien, as I believe that was an improvement up towards the top. I believe that was actually Carpenter who just went a bit further up, but currently watching Peter O'Brien as Mia Rose actually up into P number 2. Bit tricky to see on the left hand side with 1 minute 26.45. 1 minute 26.457. This heat is getting to me. It's very humid right now as Peter O'Brien goes up into P number 11, but goes down to P number 12. And now that Nate Specht has gone up into P number 11, as it is it is Marecki who has gone up to the top with a 1 minute 26.332. Very decent lap time in an Aston Martin, might I add, in home soil.
This is Rados finishing their second lap, and now they're going to move up into P2 with the same time as Eric Marecki with a 126.332. If that's how it ends up, I think they're going to be pretty salty about that one. But Marecki is actually improving right now, about a 1/10.5 up through. That looks like McLean's, and now Kappas is on the table. This Aston Martin is incredibly solid on power. It's difficult to spin up the rears in this car if you're specifically not trying to. He's got a lot of time saved already. Looking at a 25 if they can make this happen, which would be, I think, faster than the fastest lap on the hot lap leaderboard right now in the entirety of SRA. Did lose a fair amount of time in the S's there. We'll see if there's anything left in the hairpins. I talked about being solid on power with the Porsches, but the Aston Martins are also very, very strong in the traction zones. This is a car which I believe is plus 15 kilograms of ballast, and you can see exactly why. Still with an improvement on hand. Looked like a solid couple of apexes there for Goddard's, and going to have 2 tenths in hand as I come across the line for pole position.
Yeah, Nate Specht went up there momentarily as well, and less than a 10th between Marecki and Specht. Rados, of course, up there in P3. He was P2. Now relegated down there as Mr. Sir currently watching him around the final corner. However, he is down on his lap time at the final corner. Can he improve it? No, he cannot. That would have definitely been a cool down lap. Over to Matt Lehman. As of course, this driver is incredibly underrated from what I've seen so far this season. Number 67 in the McLaren 720S Evo, and it is going to be around the final corner of Goodars, and it's going to be pedal to the metal, foot to the floor once again. Going to be going all the way to the line up into P number 8, 1 minute 26.462 as Peter O'Brien currently up on his lap time as we head into the S chicane, and that is a very quick over. That is definitely going to help him out quite a bit. Just under 2 tenths up for the time being. But of course, any minor, but with how close it is between all the drivers, even a slight improvement like that can put you up pretty high in the field. Heading it down towards Goodars once again. One quick thing I'm going to point out right here. Of course, your pit lane is basically right in between turn number 11 and turn number 12 as Peter O'Brien goes up into P number 6, the 114 McLaren as Travis Nordstrom. As he's John Pole in the Honda. I've never seen that before with 1 minute 26.082. Honestly, I would be surprised if nobody breaks into the 1 minute 25s at this rate.
Here's Mr. Sir to take it away. There it is, the 25.975 from Mr. Sir in the Mustang. Showing exactly why it is that they need to put all that ballast in this car. If you ask me where he found the time, I would not be able to tell you. Something I should actually note, by the way, Michael Menning, our championship leader, is not even in the lobby right now. I'm not sure if he is occupied with anything else, but he's not here. And this is another story I'm kind of tracking. Jeremy Mercer with Timothy Flamger in 18th and 19th currently in their qualifying respectively. I mean, Timothy Flamger had I believe it was a top 10 finish at the race at Spa-Francorchamps. Jeremy Mercer, who's been a driver that's been finishing in the top, just about in the top 5 pretty much every single race, but had a poor showing at Spa in P11. I mean, if he can't find a little bit of time, which it looks like he is finding some time, I might add, through Goddard's here, it's going to be just a test of how early you can get on the power of the McLaren. Like I said, it's a little bit touchy. It's going to be about 4/10 and a move up into P5. That's more like it. Timothy Flamger is going to be coming across the line in short order as well through a Melbourne hairpin right about now with Mr. Sir behind, who is on a cool-down lap. They'll have one more opportunity to try to set the fastest lap time they could possibly put down, but as we were talking about before, those tires are going to get worse and worse as time goes on, so you're not going to have a whole lot more time to do so. Timothy Flamger with about 3.5 tenths in hand. This should be a fair improvement up into P8, and again, that is more like it.
Yeah, beautiful lap time right there. Also, I know all of the cars are registered on track right now, but I saw an aeroplane in the background. I think that would have set the fastest lap around the circuit, if we're going to be honest.
I think that was Michael
Manning. Yeah, we're just gonna, honestly, yeah, we've got 28 seconds remaining. Watch him pop up like the last second. That might be in his flight. It might just be a little bit late.
Mr. Sir's in the pit lane, but I see this is Nate Speck. He's actually on an invalid lap right now. Travis Nordstrom, however, is not and is improving by about 1/10 and then some. So Travis Nordstrom just needs to keep it clean here through the chicane, and the NSX taking it in stride, gaining even a little bit of time on the exit there. If he can hold on to this advantage all the way to the line, this could be Travis Nordstrom looking for pole position. Nobody is even... What? My connection just dropped completely for a second. Travis Nordstrom, though. I think we're back. Travis Nordstrom coming to the line here. With the advantage in hand. There it is. Pole position for Nordstrom.
Yeah, it's what you'll love to see as off in the background. You can see another McLaren go into the line. I do believe that was Nate Speck up into P number 3. And of course, watching Timothy Flamger going to be going up to the line into P number 6. As right now, as we were talking about it earlier, Nordstrom, if he can keep it nice and clean throughout the rest of this race, with how nice it is for an overtake here, he could be looking for the win, however, Rados may be looking to deny him. Unlucky, only P number 9. So fastest lap time, and pole goes to Nordstrom with a 1 minute 25.850, followed by Mr. Sir alongside, and it's Barrera, Mareka, and Speck rounds out the top 5.
I think my internet couldn't handle the idea of having an NSX on pole, so it decided it was going to do a double take. But thankfully it didn't compromise anything. That is a mega performance though for Travis Nordstrom. On a track where we were talking about how important qualifying could be, I mean, to come out and be able to put up that kind of a performance, well done.
I mean, honestly, I never expected a Honda to ever be on pole in a league race, unless it was a Japanese league. I wouldn't think it to be that high. But of course, the Honda seeming to come alive at Donington Park. Maybe the NSX is just a car that suits these kind of circuits.
Well, as we were talking about balance of performance, and there is I think a fair reason why they decided to give the NSX minus 20 kilograms of ballast. It is by far the lightest car on the circuit right now, but that does not change the fact that you have to be an insanely talented driver in order to push it to the limit. I mean, we're talking about the likes of Mr. Sir here, who was the only other driver to break into the 1 minute 25 margin, and he's in the Mustang. The Mustang, which has been a dominant car this season. There's a fair reason why we have put so much ballast on it, and you can see that with not only this driver, but his teammate as well. You know, Mr. Sir is crazy fast, too. But then you have the likes of Mikhail Charles, where, you know, he's had fairly nominal performances here. Of course, it's Division 1. It is breakneck out here. So you're going to struggle no matter where you are. But even for talented drivers, that are in the lower half of Division 1, you know, you're in the Mustang and you're still not necessarily seeing those insane performances that we get out of Mr. Sir and Michael Menning, and then here's Travis Nordstrom still putting the NSX ahead. So I don't really care that it's a 45 kilograms ballast difference. That is still nuts to me. Well done. We'll see if he can hold on to it, though. That is the real key.
Yeah, that is the real key. Also, another story I definitely think we haven't really talked about it that much since you brought it up at the very start. Jeff Spangler, further back, of course, having a qualifying ban. He's gonna be trying his best to help out the team in the standings, but he's starting all the way down in P32, and he has got a whole lot of silver drivers to get through before he gets to the gold drivers. So he's definitely going to be one to watch for the rest of this race, because if he once he is on a roll, he is on a roll. Speaking of on a roll, let the rolling start and the formation lap begin around Donington Park. Once again, track map for you. It is a good old 12-corner circuit. Turn 1, red gate. Turn 2 and turn 3, the Crenda curves. Turn 4, the old hairpin, with turn 5 and 6 being Starkeys Bridge. McLean's being turn number 7 and Coppeyes being turn number 8, which takes you onto the Starkey Straight. Turn number 10, turn number 9 and 10 being the S's chicane, followed by turn number 11 and 12 of Melbourne Hairpin and Goodhards. And of course, it's going to be definitely one to look out for throughout the rest of this race. However, of course, we could not do any of this without our sponsors. A huge thank you to our SRA sponsors, of course, and title sponsors for supporting us here at SRA, as well as Documentize, a modern business solution for project management. Go to Documentize.com to learn more today, and support from Retro Saga, a North American-based gaming company that provides accessories for your favorite classic systems, including Nintendo, Sega, PlayStation, and much more. Enhance your retro gaming experience today at retrosaga.cca. And of course, without them, we couldn't really put on these races, because, of course, helps with paying for the races and the lobbies. So huge thank you to them, man. We definitely could not do it without them.
Yeah. Specifically talking about this race too, as we prepare to go double file in through the last 2 hairpins. Mia Rose quite far down the order here in P8, and the mix of cars up front is going to be an interesting one. Estefano Barrera is probably going to be hoping that they don't get crashed out like they did last time at Spa. Andrew Rados and Gomer Wilson, both with season-high finishes at Spa-Francorchamps, qualifying in 9th and 10th respectively. So quality result from them. But I'm looking at the car difference. We have 2 Aston Martins, we've got a Mustang, we've got an NSX here up at the top, as we talked about earlier on. There's going to be some very clear differences in where the performance is on the track for these cars. And looking further down the field as well, we've got the likes of Omar Escorcia, had a bit of a poor race at Spa. Qualifying in P17 is not where they would like to be. Matt Lehman is looking for a bit of a return to form after they had a solid qualifying session in the last couple of races. Travis Robinson in P15 has seen better days. Peter O'Brien, podium finisher for the first time this season, I believe, in Spa, in 11th place this go around. We prepare to go green with the lights, and they are on at the end of the lane. We cross the timing line, and there they go. Travis Nordstrom has an epic launch here against Mr. Sir, who's under attack immediately from Estefano Barrera in towards turn 1. And Barrera is going to try and stick it up the inside here. It's very difficult to get the traction down. The Mustang is going to do its best, though, and Mr. Sir is just about going to get away with it. Nate Specs trying to move up here against Aaron Marecki, has the inside line. It's going to be a little bit challenging through the curves, and Marecki will pull away from that one. A little bit more movement down the field. Timothy Flamger under attack now from Mia Rose, and Rose will get that position. A quality move up the field. Gomer Wilson lost the position to Matt Lehman, and we see more movement down the field. I think there was a bit of contact. There's cars off in the background.
Yeah, that definitely seems like there's been a collision. We were focusing up on the fronters. That's where lots of battles were, and we've had, I believe that is about 4 or 5, actually, I believe that is actually 6 cars who got caught up at the start of that, as we do get a replay as we look further back to the field on this race start. And the real question is, who really caused it? That's the first bit. Loss of control for the pink Aston Martin. They go spinning off into another car, and everybody else just seeming to take avoiding action and going off the circuit as we watch Lamborghini, as there is another car off on the right hand side.
It's still on
wheel
the
to wheel
replay.
side by side. As there we go, as we come back from the replay. That is a car round in the middle of Melbourne hairpin. Probably a little bit of contact. Ramirez, and I believe that was Kish who had the drive through as well, actually, as it moved a little bit up, as of course Andrew Rados being the driver who got caught up in that. As we're just about to catch the replay for it, but you could just see the car right there in the middle of Melbourne. Very unlucky for the Porsche here at Donington Park.
There's no two ways about it. That was not a clean lap one for Division 1. I mean, that was so many cars caught up in incidents. I'm already seeing cars in the pits right now. Ramirez, Kish, Palmieri, Rados. I thought I saw him go in for a second, but it does look like he's still out on the circuit. That is not the start that you would have wanted if you're Andrew Rados, of course. And we might finally get some clean racing here, but the entire shape of this race has already changed. And we only just started. Jeff Spangler, with a qualifying ban at the start, I might add, has gained 18 positions into P13, so it feels like that was never even a problem for them.
What did I tell you? Told you we had to watch him already up there, making up. He started P32, now up into P number 13, as we see wheels to wheels side by side. Wilson, and of course it is Wilson versus, we got two Wilsons up in here, hey, up. As down the inside actually goes the Mercedes, goes the McLaren, and round goes Gomar Wilson in the Lamborghini. I don't think though that was needed free wide, and I feel like the McLaren may be getting a bit of a blame for that, for going for maybe a bit of a dangerous dive bomb when the space wasn't going to be really there on the apex.
This has been a disaster class of a race so far from Division 1. I don't think there's any other way to put it. This is Kelvin Lau versus Colin Dunham, who's gonna think about it up the inside of turn 1, but we've seen the traction race being won by the car on the outside before, and now it looks like they might even be under attack from Max Simons. This is for position 21, and Simons is really forcing the issue here through the curves, but it looks like it's gonna be the McLaren that sticks it out on the inside through the old hairpin. There might be a potential for a switchback here, though, from Simons. It was a little bit wide there from Dunham, all the way onto the grass, and Simon's gonna see if they can have the inside line here for McLean's. They're gonna go side by side into the braking zone, and Simons, a wonderful look here, but they're still going to be going at it all the way up in towards Cop Ice, and I think it's gonna be Dunham who just got the elbows out enough to keep that position. What a battle there.
Yeah, well, what about when it may not be over as you head down towards the S's and down the Starkey Straight? You've also got to wonder, Peter O'Brien, he got real close to the rear end of that nice little battle, as through the hairpin as we move over to Dan Cran, and it's going to be moving all over the place, battling good old Quig as we continue going on towards Goodhart's, the final corner on this circuit. And there were lots of people, and that's Mia Rose into the pit lane.
That is an interesting development, to say the least. This is Nate Spector. Oh, that's contact! Mr. Sir keeps it under control. Beautiful throttle input from there. It looks an awful lot like he had to get on the power just to keep it in line.
Yeah, it's actually up front. I believe that was, I think that was Merecki going for a move up on Barrera, although that may have just been a lapped car. Also, to the people who, just a quick little call out, to the people who are saying you can't race around Donington, even though we've had a few incidents at the start, I think that battle just about proves you wrong, that even at Donington, you can have some very good little battles, just like this may develop into. It is Matt Lehman versus Jeremy Mercer. It is McLaren versus McLaren, the 37 versus the 67. It is going to be all over the place as you head down towards the Essex chicane once again, is it me or is that tyre barrier not? Or is it me or is that tyre thing not moved?
Well, has it not really? Hang on, I'm gonna see if I can get farther down the field here. And yeah, no, it has. It's certainly been knocked off the racing line there. That is a spot where you want to cut as much as you possibly can. So I'm not surprised at all that it got thrown out of the way very, very early on. This is another driver to watch, as we were talking about Jeff Spangler, who has had an amazing race so far, being able to capitalize on all of the carnage ahead. Whether or not he has been responsible for that, I cannot say. I have no idea who or what might be responsible for some cars going around. I'm looking at Omar Escorcia's got a bit of a wiggle. They're out of Goddard's, and now they might come under attack. This is Kelvin Lau. Lamborghini very solid on the brakes. This is a story we've been following so far this season, but they actually opt to stay behind. Had the run, it looked like in towards turn 1. Maybe it was a little bit of a bump from Kelvin on the exit of Goddard's, and maybe that's why they opted not to go for the attack. It would be unsporting, which we could really use a little bit of sportsmanship after the awful lap 1 that we had.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's delivery, but it does look like that Lamborghini may have a little bit of damage to the hood of the car. So, or in fancy terms, bonnet. As fancy terms as, that's just an off.
Danny Durant's went wide there at the old hairpin.
Yeah, off-track moment. You can't really do much about it when that comes down to it. As currently watching the Mercedes once again of Danny Durant, and he's just there chilling in P14. One thing I'm going to point out though, are we sure we don't have Michael Menning in disguise here? Because we're not even 10 minutes into the race, and there's already a 2.8 second gap.
It's a little bit more than that, according to my race control. Extending out to 3 there in the traction zone. Estefano Barrera just cannot match the pace of the NSX out front. And for Travis Nordstrom, this has got to be the perfect spot to be in, because Mr. Sir, the other completely fastest car on track, got into a little bit of a scrap there on the opening couple of laps and was not able to really bring the fight to the pole sitter. So Eric Marecki, behind Estefano Barrera, rounds out the top 3, and Mr. Sir is not necessarily in the conversation. I'm seeing Landon Treves going wheel to wheel with Austin Carpenter. It's the Aston Martin on the outside here for Redgate, but later on the brakes is the Porsche. It's probably going to have a little bit of better traction out in towards the curves, and there it is, Landon Treves with the move done, but certainly under a lot of pressure here as Austin Carpenter is looking for some sort of a way by, but this circuit is far too narrow for that, my friend.
Well, we say it's a bit too narrow, but I was going to say something. I was going to say that he may be able to set up a move down through Starkey's bridge on the inside towards McLean's, but the Porsche acceleration is just something else that we can't ignore, and Austin Carpenter may be coming under pressure here from Rust right behind him. The battle for P27 seems to be just about kicking off now, as Austin for Alpha Sim Sport currently going to be having to defend in the 676 Aston Martin.
Many small gaps. In fact, they're going to jump on board. This is Jeff Spangler. Only 0.1 seconds behind, was thinking about a move into Goddard's there against, that's Dan Cran in front, and Brooker Quigg, who got a drive-through penalty while they were fighting for, I believe it was roughly in the top 15 spots last time out at Spa. Very late in the race, it was a drive-through penalty for Brooker Quigg, so they are doing phenomenally so far in this outing. If they can hold on to this position, or even if they lose these couple, Andrew Wilson is still a little bit distant here. That's the 414 that we're looking at right now, who has got some fairly clean air. Another driver who got a drive-through penalty, Nate Specht, who is currently all over the back of Mr. Sir. And this is a story I never thought that I'd be talking about, but here you can see it. The diffuser of the Mustang in front, and it almost looks like Specht got a better run there out of McLean's.
Yeah, most definitely. And one thing I'm going to think about here, maybe in qualifying, it didn't look like the ballast was affecting the Ford that much. However, when it comes down to actually racing with other cars, with your car being a lot heavier, it's not going to be as maneuverable. So that is most likely going to be hindering him as out the chicane. It is Nate Specht looking for a move, baby, as he's going to stick his nose in for the outside move. Maybe look for a little bit of a switch back, but maybe losing the rear end a little bit there as well, as Mr. Sir just about defending the line for now out of Melbourne hairpin down towards Goodhart's, as Jesus Christ, Mercer, he came in from quite far back, didn't he? But currently going on to the Wheat Cross straight and down to Redgate once again, and it is going to be the McLaren versus the Ford for the time being for the final position just outside of the podium. And of course, Mr. Sir does not want to get caught up in a battle there, as he's going to be wanting to chase down Marecki as we move over to Andrew Rados momentarily.
This is trouble. Rados, who got knocked around at Melbourne earlier on. This is blue flag traffic behind Rados. right now. That's S11 R5 and Eric Marecki, who are running in P2 and P3. So Rados is going to have to concede positions to this blue flag traffic. I mean, you are on the fresher rubber, but unless they can build the gap, but I don't necessarily see that happening. And Mr. Sir is not too far behind. So if Rados does indeed concede to Eric Marecki and Estefano Barrera, which I believe they should, this battle will end up having to go past that as well. And who knows where we go from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tight track. It can be pretty hard to overtake as currently looking. I'm keeping my eye on Mercer, to be honest. I saw him come from pretty far back last lap into Goodhards. And you got to wonder, is he going to be trying it again? Of course, we've still got 48 minutes left, so you got to take advantage where you can, as it looks like Specs may actually have a better run. As theirs is Dunham going for a move down the inside on Kevin Lau, and that is a beautiful little overtake. But these two are just going to keep on going. And actually, I stand corrected, that was Max Simmons, not Kevin Lau. My apologies. As cheeky little move down the inside, lovely jubbly, sound as a pound.
I think that might have been a return move as well. Max Simons, who had to concede space at the apex of the first hairpin there to Colin Dunham, but was able to get the traction down with the boards. You talked about that acceleration. We talked about how the rear engine cars are going to be strong at this circuit, and with little ballast, it's kind of causing some problems here, you can see.
Yep, Peter O'Brien, as it's going to be around the outside as you head through Cranmer Curves number 3 and into the old hairpin, which realistically isn't a hairpin, it's just more of a right-hander. But that's what we do as Brits, we make things confusing as we continue on throughout the rest of this race. And it's going to be Dunham right behind him, and he's going to be chilling there for the time being. Of course, Guyman Person also there for the time. As looking on the left-hand side, where we were talking about good old Jeff Spangler making his way up, all the way up the field. However, a major actually, that is Barrera with a drive-through.
No way. That is insane. Barrera was going to have a nightmarish story now for Spa and for Donington Park alike. And there he goes into the pit lane. But that is huge for Travis Nordstrom. Look at this gap now. 6 seconds and change to Eric Marecki behind, who's only just now reaching the apex of Redgate, while Travis Nordstrom storms down the Cranmer Curves. I'm wondering if they need to add some more ballast to the NSX, or if Nordstrom just found the perfect setup fuel balance for this car, because this looks like he's raced to lose in every single way right now.
Yeah, well, don't say too much, otherwise there is a thing called the commentator's curse. Then again, if anybody else is supporting any of the drivers, they're probably hoping that we will talk about the leaderboard, because then maybe that way he won't do a do and fly off into the distance. I was watching Victor Diaz for the time being. I'm going to go back to what I was saying just before I noticed that drive-through. We were talking about Jeff Spangler. He's made it all the way up into P number 11. However, Mia Rose with a major fall from grace is actually the 195 as he resets to the pit lane. Did have a yellow flag momentarily. That is Gomer Wilson. They reset, and that is why major collision into the barrier. Probably, I don't believe there was a collision. I believe he just lost the rear end and he went straight off into the barrier over the grass. And once you lose it here at Donington Park, that is it. Your race is practically gonna be over. As I keep on getting interrupted by all the incidents, but there she is, Mia Rose, the gal from down under. Major fall from grace after last week at Spa and a few races beforehand. She got a drive-through at the start, and now she's all the way down to P30.
Well, no, she didn't get a drive-through, actually, because if you take a look at the left-hand side, you'll notice one critical thing missing from the HUD here on Mia Rose's side. It's the pit stop, the mandatory pit stop. So Mia Rose has cleared the mandatory pit stop. This is a season where tires are mandatory, I should note, though. So you got the clean air, great. You got fresh tires, great. You're going to have the mega undercut, fantastic. But when every other car comes out of the pit lane about halfway through the race, guess who's going to be at a major disadvantage? It's you. So Mia has to make up as much ground as she possibly can, try to gain that track position against the drivers in front, because let's be honest, there was a lot of traffic in the early stages of the race. We still see some trades relatively close up to each other. Dan Cran has been up behind these couple of cars in front for a fair period of time. Brooker Quigg actually now in P9 with Dan Cran pressuring, but still a very, very solid position for them to be in. Nate Specht in kind of a similar position here against Mr. Sir. Yeah, you have clearly amazing pace as Mr. Sir. You can see trundling through Melbourne hairpin there, but these McLarens are so unhappy behind the Mustang because they're faster in different sections of the track, and it seems like the Evo is the car to be in right now.
Well, we can say that, but I was doing some racing earlier, and I'm going to be honest, I have a similar tactic. I feel like Mr. Sir is slowing that Ford down at the apexes, up on the hairpins purposefully, because if you slow down that McLaren, the horsepower in that Ford is going to give you a better acceleration down the straights. So I don't think it's a case of the McLarens being unable to get past simply by that. I think it's Mr. Sir playing the tactics of slowing it down majorly on the hairpins.
For one, I thought I had seen somebody run a little bit wide there. My race control gave me a lot of motion, but I don't necessarily think that that is accurate. I'm going to hop on board. This is the same fight that we were just talking about. This is Jeremy Mercer, Nate Specht, and Mr. Sir all fighting for a podium position, while Eric Marecki is about 2 seconds up the field. We'll take a look here at the wing cam for both of them. So you can see there's Mr. Sir in the background, and then Mr. Sir, who indeed is under a heck of a lot of pressure right now. And that looks like a good run there for Nate Specht. This is the opportunity to make a move. He's been getting impatient for a while, but he actually has to think about behind as Mercer motions towards the inside, towards the apex. But again, they're going to have to wait up behind the 747 Mustang. And as you mentioned, the traction race is where the Mustang gets the power down. As soon as you straighten the wheel, you can plant the throttle all the way to the floor. And you're just not going to win that race.
Yeah, exactly. The Ford just has it locked and loaded. It's actually Nate Specht into the pit lane. Pretty early pit stop with 42 minutes, 22 seconds remaining. So many people coming in early, and this may sound crazy. But why do I feel like some people are going to be doing 2 stops?
There's no way. There's no way there's going to be a 2-stop race. That would be way too much time lost, surely. I mean, this is just for undercut. This is just for, you know, getting out of the dirty air. I mean, Nate Specht, we saw it. It was the whole story that we were talking about, right? There's no way Nate Specht is going to be making 2 stops. He just wanted to get out from behind of Mr. Sir, surely.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The way I'm looking at it, it is entirely possible because with it being such a tight circuit, if you know you can overtake people and you know you can overtake the traffic, everybody else is going to be getting held up around the lap, and it is a pretty quick lap. It's a pretty small circuit and a pretty quick lap here at Donington, so it's either he's just come in and done his pit stop incredibly early, or some people are doing the absolute craziness and going for a 2-stop strategy, which obviously I do not recommend. Trust me, I have done this track many times. You do not want to do a 2-stop round here. However, if you're crazy enough, it is entirely possible, as currently watching Mikhail Charles as we head out of Melbourne hairpin once again down to Goodars, as we have got not as close as other trains, but still a 4-way train right here, heading out the final hairpin and onto the main straight as we look over the rear wing of the Mercedes for N2R8, for N2R on Gustavo Sanz, and it is down into Redgate, and the Ferrari just unable to get past the Mercedes for the time, it is the McLaren unable to get past the Mercedes for the time being. As we continue on throughout the rest of this race, as Dan Cran also into the pit lane. You can see it on the overall standings on the left-hand side. So maybe people are just coming in earlier pit stops, trying to get out of this traffic, trying to get some clean air to get some extra runs, as Mikhail Charles is chasing down Victor Diaz. These two are going to be going at it probably for the rest of this race. One thing I'm also going to point out with 20 minutes remaining is that there is a 10-second gap up top, I do believe, as it is Escorcia, who has, I believe, he's lost out to Peter O'Brien by the looks of it, I do believe, as we continue as 9.2 second gap up top, and then a 2.3 second gap between P2 and P3. So the gaps starting to open up incredibly as we see Mikhail Charles once again, as it is Jeremy Mercer into the pit lane for T-Rice Sim Racing Esports. Hopefully they can pull a quick pit stop and get the car back out of the pit lane. Honestly, I just really wish we had pit stop animations here on Assetto Corsa Competizione, and it will make it a whole lot more interesting to see what the pit stops are like for each of the drivers. Plus, it would be really cool to see lots of different teams in different overalls.
That much is true. We're starting to see the action really cool down here with a lot of these undercut. Well, I guess, you know, I say undercuts, but it is difficult to tell exactly what the shape of the race is right about now. Mia Rose did come out ahead in the battle against Nate Specht. Nate Specht, who is going to be on much fresher tires. In fact, the time differential right about now is 13 minutes. So Mia Rose has been out on those tires for, what, it's a minute 26-second lap. Those tires are a lot older. Jeremy Mercer, just coming out of the pit lane, is going to lose out to Nate Specht. But this is going to become a battle that now you need to keep an eye on, because we were just talking about tire differential. This is going to be no different. Nate Specht, who has done a lap or two on the new rubber, versus Jeremy Mercer, who just came out of the pit lane on a brand new set. So all of these undercuts and, you know, attempts to get out of traffic are going to compromise the cars who indeed decided to run that strategy, because further down the line they are going to struggle to maintain that track position that they gained by performing the undercut. Matt Lehman into the pits now.
Yeah, Matt Lehman into the pit lane. I mean, we were talking about tyres, but also with everybody being such similar cars, you've also got to think about the setups and how everybody is going to be combating it, as not everybody will be the same, and most people may get it from Go setups, premium esports setups for everyone. Use our affiliate link on our Discord and take your drive to the next level with Go setups. And it is Brooker Quick currently going through the old hairpin and towards turn number 5 and 6, Starkey's Bridge, and he's currently still trying to chase down a car right in front of him of Robinson, who, fun fact, is not banned here in the UK, because we do not ban black currants.
I do not have any idea what the context is for that, but be quite honest.
It's a drink.
There you go. This is one of the closer gaps that we have as well. As cars start to come out of the pit lane, there's a bit of a shakeup going on in the order. Matt Lehman dropping down behind Jeremy Mercer. Andrew Wilson and Jeff Spangler, actually, oh my goodness, I did not see this one, all my relatives. This is a battle here culminating. This is not Jeff Spangler, that's Dan Cran on the outside of Andrew Wilson, who will make the move and get on through. I believe this was a pit exit battle, as the lap times do look quite different. Wilson, who just came out of the pit lane, was able to get ahead. But Cran's not going to be too happy about that one. Timothy Flamger now into the pit lane. So we are seeing a very unique variety of strategies. Danny Durant's into the pit lane. I'm sorry, Danny, I keep doing that to you. Omar Escorcia into the pit lane. So
yeah, I mean, think now, personally, now is the time. The 40 minutes to the 25-minute mark is probably when you're going to be wanting to make your pit stops around here, in my opinion. As Dan Crank, currently still watching him, everybody's favourite admin, heading down in the Matrix car, very glitchy, all over the place, down into Melbourne hairpin, and then onto Goodhards. I saved that, thankfully, as we're still watching him, and it's what you'll love to see realistically, as there is still lots of people in the pit lane. One thing to think about though, Dan Crank, currently P26, heading out of Goodhards, but the leader of Nordstrom, he's just heading out of Melbourne, so just really shows how quickly the leaders are getting around this lap with an 11-second race lead, as we're currently seeing Brooke Quick in the Audi trying to chase down the McLaren of Robinson in the number 73, as it is all over the place realistically, with plenty of people yet to pit. So you have got, as speaking of pits, in goes Robinson, and Mr. Sir is also into the pit lane. So the leaders starting to pit now, and we've still got quite a few good silver drivers up there who are yet to pit as well. So that's definitely going to mix up the action when it comes down to it. Currently watching Matt Lehman heading down into the Essex chicane, and it's what everybody is loving to see. Honestly, you never get over the sights and the sounds here at the two hairpins, because just seeing the cars go around here is a thing of beauty, especially when they get it perfect. just like the rest of these drivers are, Starvo Sands and Peter O'Brien also into the pit lane. There's actually majority of the top runners into the pit lane, as the top 8 are going to be the ones to stay out, as that is a drive through for Jacob Palmineri. However,
I've tried not to pay him any mind in this race because of how much we have cursed him with screen time, but it's just another one to write off.
Sorry, Jacob.
We could send him some get well soon. Flowers. I believe Travis Robinson shows that they dropped the spot to Jeff Spangler, who I believe just came out of the pit lane. I could be wrong. In fact, it is Travis Robinson who just came out of the pit lane. So this is going to be a fight that starts to heat up a little bit. Gustavo Sanz and Omar Escorcia are in that exact spot. As it was, Sanz, who just came out of the pit lane, barely behind Escorcia. So the pits are really causing a bit of a mix-up. Burger Quick and Eric Marecki now into the box. So this is very difficult to keep track of. But speaking of that, we do want to give more thank yous to our affiliates. Track Racer. You can experience redefined gaming with Track Racer's high-quality sim rigs and accessories. You can use code SRATE at checkout to support us. And I might actually do soon, because I've been thinking of making an upgrade on my rig, and that might just be the way to do it. Lennon Drevis now into the box as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way that it's going to go, realistically, as everybody is into the pit lane. And it's honestly something that you can never really ignore. And honestly, there are plenty of things that can help you out, and majority of those are our affiliates. With Aramatio, a toolbox for ACC that will enhance your chance to win. Enjoy a full customizable and enhanced heads-up display to change the way you experience ACC. I'm sure Nordstrom's not using that as he comes into the pit lane, as, to be honest, a good HUD can help you out, and what you can see on the screen, as well as AT3D Sim Shop. Upgrade your sim racing experience with premium 3D printed accessories, featuring precision crafted magnetic shifters, sleek cable management, solutions with versatile stream deck mounts and immersive dashboard displays. Their innovative designs enhance performance and style, elevate every lap with top tier quality and craftsmanship at AC3D.net. And finally, Castle Cauldron, a home-based crafting business specializing in handmade Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts, Fairy, Will collections, magic wands, potions, mini dioramas, wall decor, customary cosplay, and much more. Castle Cauldron is where crafting meets the magic. Visit facebook.com/Castle Cauldron. Honestly, I might check that out because I would love to get some racetrack stuff up on my wall.
Yeah, you know who's checking out right now? It's Travis Nordstrom. Look at this. There's two drivers that were still behind Guy Mampers and Austin Carpenter, even after Nordstrom came out of the pit. Granted, they were both in the pit lane, but now, provisional P2 is Mia Rose. We talked about the undercut potential and being able to just run your laps in Mia, I think, is a wonderful example of that. Travis Nordstrom, though, I should mention a story that I wanted to...
sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt here. Looking at the map, that is the 624, I do believe, yellow flag on the map. That is Jacob Palmineri. He is on the side of the track, and he is just stopped there. And did he just leave the game?
He did. Out of the server with Jacob Palmieri after sustaining the drive-through penalty. I mean, what more is there in it for you, really?
True. Very true, actually. As Travis Nordstrom, once again, I'll let you go back to what you were saying, as he's just out up there. But Mia Rose, are we sure she isn't on is not on a masterclass right now?
I think so. I am sure, actually, because again, those tires are, as it stands, 13 minutes older than Nate Specht, who has closed this gap down to 1.3 seconds now. And I don't think that you can really ignore that. Yes, Mia Rose is running in provisional P2 right now, but Travis Nordstrom only just came out of the box. You're not going to catch him. His best lap of the race, I might add, was a 1:26.647. Nate Specht only just recently broke that with a 1:26.455, and now Travis Nordstrom is on fresh rubber. So I'm expecting him to take this race and just run and well and truly check out, because you can see the gap is 7.6 seconds to Mia Rose behind. You got a half hour to go. Yes, it's a long time, but this is basically the Max Verstappen-esque story that we have been seeing throughout this and last season of Formula One. So Travis Nordstrom, I'm going to do my best to stop talking about you now, because I would love to have another race winner, and I would love for it to be in the Honda NSX, but you can see the gap is continuing to diminish here out of Cup Ice, and Nate's maybe getting a little bit eager there, but certainly with good reason. Almost in striking distance now of Mia Rose.
I mean, you want to get within striking distance. However, one thing I am looking at, and this may be crazy, and it's a pretty big gap as well, but what if Mia Rose is just going to be chilling there? She knows she's on older rubber. So what if she starts to defend and hold people up to allow Jeff Spangler to try and catch up to the back of the pack, as maybe team play coming into this race, as the map is just showing the actual gap. Jesus Christ. As don't worry, Andrew. I think if anybody's going to be the one cursing people this evening, it's gonna be me, considering we're in considering we are in the UK tonight.
Matt Lehman is in the pit lane, but Matt Lehman, who just left the server. Matt Lehman, who was running in the top 10, I think, or so at the time that we went on board, and suddenly just out. They had already completed the mandatory pit stop, which is why I went over and checked on them. They're done. Matt, the 67 just retired.
Came out of nowhere.
I don't know what to say about that one.
Honestly, neither do I. That is... I'm not going to look too much into it. It's probably something to do with personal life.
Could have been a mechanical failure too. Who knows?
Yeah, probably best that we do not look into it right now and just focus on the current racing that is going on out on track, as over the last lap he has gained plenty of time. It's Nate Specht, and without a doubt the battle is about to begin as they head out of Melbourne's hairpin and to Goddard, and it's going to be on two with 27 minutes remaining, onto the good old Wheatcross straight down towards Redgate. Then it's Cranmere Curves, as it is it is Nate Specht who currently has the fastest lap, chasing down the Aussie icon here in SRA, Mia Rose.
I wonder how hard, as you mentioned, you know, Mia could well try to defend this, but you're not going to defend from Nate Specht, who is on much fresher tires for that long, unless she's trying to close down that gap to Jeremy Mercer behind. Because if Mercer tries to get an attack here going against Specht, you can see that's the gap visually out front. It's Specht who's kicking up a little bit of dust there in the old hairpin exit. He wants this. There's no doubt about that one. But we're seeing more gaps start to come down here further down the field. Once these pit stops start to sort themselves, you can see that the drivers, you know, maybe they tried to undercut to get into some clean air, and now they find themselves exactly where they left off. And things not going necessarily so well for them. I kind of want to take a look here at the race stories, though. Jeff Spangler up 23 positions, almost on par with what we saw from Michael Menning last week as Spa-Francorchamps, after taking the qualifying ban. Those first lap incidents really helped him to move up the order.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's just turn 1 for. I think that's just lap 1 for you. I mean, we already gave him. I think they need. Let's be honest. I think they need another slap on the wrist this week, because we gave him one last week, but I don't think they really got the message. D1, we're giving you a slap on the wrist for the first few laps. Do better.
Nate Specht still hunting down Mia now. This is well and truly battling territory. All you need is one little bit of a good run, and then the position should just about be yours. Specht, who has been an elbows out driver in a couple of different races so far this season, not the least of which was the 1 week ago at Spa-Francorchamps, where he was trying to fight Michael Menning. Now you have the opportunity to fight the championship leader, who may not be as pacey, but has certainly had slightly more consistent finishes in Mia Rose. And get on to the second step of the podium, and then hope that Travis Nordstrom gets a drive-through penalty, which I don't necessarily think is going to happen, because he knows that he has the gap behind and doesn't necessarily have to take it too hard. This is going through Compass now. It looked like it was a close gap out of McLean's, but Nate Specht is trying to be as late on the brakes as he possibly can in order to stay with the 956 in front. But there's just nothing in it in the traction zone here. Like for like cars, you have to find some sort of a run, carry a little bit more speed, be a little bit more strong on the traction. That could be the opportunity. The 956 going just a little bit wide into the grass, but it looks like Mia was able to stay on the throttle and stay ahead indeed.
Yeah, most definitely. As here we go then. I was about to say, this is where you want to get a run. It's either down to good odds, down through turn 1, turn 3, turn 2 to turn 4, or towards turn number 10 and turn number 9 and 10. As it's a lovely little move right there through the good odds hairpin. And onto the next lap, it is going to be Nate Specs, who is up into P number 2. And now the big question is he going to have to defend from Mia Rose, or is he going to be trying to chase down Nordstrom?
Chasing down Nordstrom is going to be a no small feat. 11 seconds, 0.6 the gap as he assumes control over the number 2 spot. Jeremy Mercer is going to be looking at Mia Rose next. So this is another big question, is will Jeremy Mercer be able to catch up to this one? His last lap was just about on par with what Mia and Spec did, although it is a little bit compromised, of course, as they had to do a little bit of battling there in the turn 11 hairpin, as you were talking about. So there is very real potential for Jeremy Mercer to get past and finish out the podium finishing positions. Mr. Sir is not far behind, though. So again, if they lose time going after this fight, then Mr. Sir could become enveloped in this battle, and then who knows where we go from there.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of the things that you always have to be wary of. If you go into a battle or you have to defend, you always have to have a game plan. You can't just chuck it in there and hope for the best, as that is what does cause collisions. You want to keep it nice and clean to avoid any post-race or in the live race penalties. As once again into turn number 12, and it's going to be penalty to the best, or foot to the floor with 22 minutes 40 seconds remaining here at Donington Park. Heading once again down to Redgate as we move over, as that is Gustavo Sanz with a drive-through, and we're looking at Peter O'Brien versus Michaela Charles, heading down towards good odds in McLaren. The McLaren has the inside line versus the Ford. Little bit of shoving maybe. That's a nice little cheeky move there, though. The blue versus the yellow, a battle as old as time, and that is Peter O'Brien, who's got a lovely little move right there. However, backing off a little bit maybe.
I'm not sure if they were. I think it was just a raw traction race, because you saw Peter Bryan was not able to maximize the circuit in the traction zone. So Michael Charles with the Mustang power, I think that may have just been a simple case of getting a little bit more out of it. I just wanted to hop over that one as I saw the gap was coming down, but we'll go back to the one of the more important fights, I would argue, at hand. This is Jeremy Mercer up behind Mia Rose for the final podium position. Just over 20 minutes left to go in this race, and the 956 continues to struggle on those worn tires. You know, you took a gamble, and it seemed to pay off for you in the short term, but now you have to think about how many positions it is that you're going to lose as your rear and front grip starts to fall away, especially the front grip in the McLarens, especially the rears if you're running low downforce setup. You know, they're going to struggle to try and get that traction. Of course, they'll have a little bit longer lifespan, but at this point, you're not necessarily worried about the tires saving, because you've just been out there too long. I don't know a single driver that could push as hard as Mia Rose did after the undercut and still have tire life.
Yeah, I mean, unless you are Checo Perez or you're George Russell in Monaco, I don't think you're going to be saving tyres that much, because it is incredibly difficult to do. As currently still watching this battle, this is the one where we want to watch, let's be honest. It's the battle for the final podium paying positions as we head down into the old hairpin. And no, not old hairpin, into McLean's. I had to double check the map a little bit, my apologies. And as we look at Mr. Sir, as it is.
Peter O'Brien, this is another one I've been watching the gaps on. This is Peter O'Brien following Kelvin Lau and Victor Diaz. Peter O'Brien, who just overtook Michael Charles, as you might recall, in a lap and a half about ago. But this battle is already starting to culminate in something, so keep an eye on that one. But this is what we were looking for. Jeremy Mercer up on the inside of Mia Rose into the turn 11 hairpin, and I think that should just about be the move done in a raw traction race. There's no way that the worn tires are going to win out, and the 37 will start to pull just ahead, but into the braking zone. Rose is still trying to keep a part of this fight, and Mercer is going to have to take the outside line, and maybe he's not in the best spot that you'd ever like. You have one more overtaking chance. It's into Redgate. If you can beat them in the braking zone. This is going to be the place to do it. Jeremy Mercer again going for the outside line, and Mia is going to have a slightly poor exit on this one, but I don't think you're going to have the run here, and Mercer's going to have to stay behind for another lap.
Yeah, I mean, he is going to have to stay behind for another lap. However, I believe that's helped out Mr. Sir. With those two battling through Melbourne Hairpin and Goodhards, it is definitely one that is going to be tricky, as Peter O'Brien has got past Kevin Lau, and that is a lovely little overtake there for the time being, pouring a space between himself and the Ford. Speaking of between himself and the Ford, I was talking about this. Mr. Sir has now caught up between these two, and it is going to, so Mercer has to choose between defending or going after Mia, and it looks like he's going to choose defense for now, as the Ford is going to stick its nose in momentarily just before the S's chicane. But once again, of course, your McLaren's going to have the advantage a little bit into the hairpin, as they do rotate a little bit easier than the Fords do nowadays, with the Ford being a bit of a tank. However, of course, it has that pure Eagle horsepower, as we look at a nice little overtake there by Charles on good old Kevin Lau.
Yeah, just catching that in the replay. I saw another motion down the field there for the 666 Lamborghini of Kelvin Lau, leading against teammate Bailey Kish, who is running relatively low down the order, but a cut and dry pass there for Mikhail Charles, a driver who has had a bit of a struggle so far this season, but seems to be doing reasonably well. P16 in this race, certainly not a poor result, but I mean, looking back, oh, that's a drive-through. I see Lennon Dreves has picked up a drive-through from P23, so that's going to be moving all the way down to the bottom of the order for them. Not the position you want to be in, as I'm sure I don't need to tell you, but you know, it's our job to say stupid things. Mia Rose still holding on to this P3, and I think, you know, Mercer coming under attack there from Mr. Sir is exactly where she wanted this fight to go. She wanted to hold up traffic, and this is probably where she wanted Nate Specht to be right about now. You know, you lost one position, okay, that sucks. You're still on the podium though, and you are getting them into this right little, you know, spot where you're leading a train of two cars that might be battling each other. And we talked a little bit about the balanced performance, the fact that these cars are strong in different areas of the circuit. If you can keep Jeremy Mercer at bay and force him into the waiting arms of Mr. Sir, then they're going to have these performance differentials that cause them to battle throughout the lap over and over and over again.
Well, talking about these battles, actually, as I was paying attention in the background, everybody else is starting to catch up. It's creating a five-way train at the moment, from Mia Rose to Mercer to Sir to Flamger and Marecki. But you can see him in the background coming out the final corner. It is Jeff Spangler. It is a 5.9 second gap right there for the time being. But there is 16 minutes left in this race, as it's now down, and it's just about 6 seconds, but it's just showing that everybody's getting held up by Mia Rose. I said this earlier with the team tactics. You told me it wouldn't work, but I think this is a game plan what they've come up with now. As you can see him in the background there, he is catching up with our rate of knots, especially when this might happen. Mr. Sir going to be looking for a move on Jeremy Mercer, going through the right-hander of Chop Ice and onto the Starkey straight, almost a little bit of contact. These guys are inches from each other, banging wall banging. It's going to be a bit chitty all the way down into the S chicane, which they go into together, and that's a bit of contact. And that is going to make Sir lose out to good old Timothy Flanger. Heading down, but he's going to dive it down the inside once again. He's not going to give it up into Melbourne, as it's pedal to the metal, foot to the floor, the battle for traction, which the Ford has the advantage. But on the inside is, of course, going to be the Aston Martin of Timothy Flanger. And it's all the way nice and easy as the other Aston Martin comes through, shoves the Ford out of the way. Lovely double overtake there by Flamger and Marecki. Mr. Sir decided to go down the inside there at turn 1 as well, just like he decided to go down the inside at the chicane. Neither time working out so far, as it is going to be Mr. Sir putting the elbows out here at Donington Park. It's going to be wheel to wheel, but he just about stays ahead for the time being.
I should add, Jeremy Mercer, look at the gap now that's developed for Mia. And Jeff Spangler, he's starting to close up a little bit on the back of that. You can see he is pushing hard through the old hairpin there. You can't quite see the battle ahead. There they are, going through McLean's just there. So Eric Marecki, Mr. Sir, Timothy Flamger, all going at it as hard as they possibly can. I mean, these are good points-paying positions, even if you're not on the podium. You know, Mia Rose looks, you know, comparatively like a bit of a sitting duck, but as time continues to wear away, your tire advantage is going to as well. And with a 3-second gap to Mr. Sir now, who was one of the second fastest driver in qualifying. I mean, there's no two ways to say it. This is a good situation for Mia to be in suddenly. This is really panned out for her.
Yeah, and once again, as they headed into Melbourne, you could see Jeff, brain, please work this evening, as it was, of course. My brain is not braining, I apologise. You can see Jeff in the background as we're currently watching Peter O'Brien, and not the battle in front, but Peter O'Brien currently just chilling there as he's been overtaken by Victor Diaz. And that's a lovely little move as around the outside, it looks like, when the good old mastermind of Austin Carpenter up into P22, overtaking Velez.
Get on that. Oh, yeah, that would explain
that's
it.
Why. Yeah,
I was about to say,
that would explain why he was going slow.
We swapped on, and Carpenter, it looked like they went wide at the exit of the chicane, and I was like, that's not right. Usually if you go wide at the exit of the chicane, you're the one losing the position. But that would be a good reason. He's trying to avoid a potential rejoin there from Velez, so that's further down the field. I would say nice move done. I'm not really sure if that was on merit necessarily, but you know, you capitalized. So well played. 126.28 is the purple lap. That's Eric Marecki who holds on to it right now. Mr. Sir, who has lost touch with Timothy Flamger in front. So this train starting to break up relatively significantly. You can see this is the gap to from Flamger to Mercer, and Mercer is starting to close back up against Mia Rose with a little bit of clean air, but I'm not sure if this will pan out in time for them.
Yeah, I mean, an overtake's an overtake at the end of the day, let's be honest. So as long as it's nice and clean, you kind of go accept an overtake. It's the way of racing, realistically. And this is one of the things we love about GT racing. There's just overtakes almost every other lap because the grid is just so much bigger and the cars are basically almost equal. As we continue watching here, as we see Patrick Rust in the Audi looking for a move on, Velez heading through Melbourne. Maybe trying to get traction heading down towards Goodhart's, and he's going to have to chill there for the time being, as very unlucky day for Landon Drebes, as he is all the way down there in P26, as well as Ramirez actually, and Bailey Kish.
Yeah. We talk about, you know, finishing low down the order, but of course this is Division 1. For SRA. If you can make it into Division 1, then that means you are a fast driver, full stop. So even if you have a poor result, I've personally been of the opinion that even participating in a higher class of racing is generally more prestigious than winning a lower division. You know, that might not necessarily be true in all cases. We have some very fast Division 2 gold drivers who I think mostly race in Division 2 because they can't race on Tuesdays. But if you're in Division 1, you are here for a reason. So even if you're placing P26, Landon Drebes, whose fastest lap of the race is a 1:27 flat, I mean, that's a qualifying time that would probably put you reasonably high up in the grid in a Division 2 race. And we're talking about race pace here. So they are insanely fast, each and every one of these drivers. And I think it makes it all the more ridiculous that Travis Nordstrom has a 15-second lead against Nate Specht in P2.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way that it is. It is what it is, as some people would say. But as we continue on, it is, of course, Jeremy Mercer still trying to chase down that podium place as he has closed down that gap again to 3/10 behind Mia Rose for Tire Sim Racing Esports for number 37 in the good old McLaren. Going to be chasing down the other McLaren of We're a Barbie team of the 956 McLaren for Mia Rose, the gal from Down Under, as we head down once again towards the Essex chicane, number 9 and turn number 10, both respectively, and it's going to be nice little as we get a beautiful helicopter cam, and that is beautiful lines by all the drivers, as, let's be honest, Timothy Flamger, he's got a front row seat to this battle when it eventually kicks off again.
Looks like it might have just kicked off there if Jeremy Mercer got a slightly better run. I think Mia specifically might have gotten a poor run through turns 9 and 10 of the chicane. But they will stay in the order as they were. You know, you don't necessarily need this battle to culminate for Mercer until the checkered flag. You could get the move done at the very last lap, and, you know, the timing sheet will only show at the end of the race where it is that you finished crossing the line. It doesn't care when you got the move done, so he might just be biding his time at this point. That looked like it might have been a little bit of a wiggle there from me if I wasn't mistaken, but I think I may very well have been, because these are some alien-type drivers. Trying to find all that grip on the inside curb, of course, for traction can be challenging, but they do indeed make it happen through the old hairpin here. Turn 4. Doesn't look like anything is set to change just yet. That gap is lurking down low. Another one that we've been kind of keeping track of. This is Victor Diaz being chased down by Peter O'Brien. Podium finisher last time out. Has certainly not had the same race this go around. Down 4 positions, looking to make that only 3 in the 114 McLaren versus McLaren fight here.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be one to look out for, of course. Silver versus gold as well. Peter O'Brien, even though it's gold and silver, they are not separated by much when realistically you look at them on track. So the 114 going to be wanting to get past Victor Diaz, most likely. However, he may just be biding his time, as there is still 8 minutes and 24 seconds remaining here at Donington for the race time. So, like I said, biding your time and just waiting for the perfect opportunity, as it is going to continue on throughout the rest of this race time, as that is a beautiful chicane line by both of those drivers, heading down towards Melbourne Hairpin once again as we move over to this, as this is going to be kicking off without a doubt very, very soon, as it seems like we've got another train forming behind, just behind Jeff Spangler. So two trains starting to form up, with Werra Barber team in the lead. Choo-choo as we head down through turn number 3 to Old Hairpin once again, as you see the flames kapooting at the back of Mia Rose's McLaren.
This would be disappointing for Jeff Spangler if he can't pull off the move. As I mentioned, the tire differential is not necessarily going to play into your favor near the end of the race. You know, once they wear down to a certain point, you know, you get a bit of a plateau in performance. So for Jeremy Mercer, it's going to be a, you know, do it at some point soon. You can see he's just sawing away on the wheel, really dancing on the edge of grip, and it's exactly where you need to be if you want to even compete in these kinds of a lobby. But when you have Flanger right behind, and when you're trying to chase down P3 in the race right about now, ignore ACC, that is completely lying to you. He's definitely not in 3rd place. That's Mia Rose ahead, who is in 3rd place. And when you're trying to chase down these podium positions, you have to be absolutely on the edge at all times.
Yeah, you can probably guess how much they're going to be soaring those wheels, just trying to get the cars rotated and to get the perfect lines as well. And of course, as speaking of it, soaring the wheels, trying to get the perfect lines, Peter O'Brien, we've been keeping an eye on this versus Victor Diaz. Ran the outside. Don't tell me he's only going to go and do it. He's gone for the outside. That's going to give him the inside line. Heading down towards Goodars. It's the blue versus the white. I was going to think of a team ball. I can't really think of one. Heading around the outside, around the outside of the penultimate, down the inside of the final. Lovely little overtake there by Peter O'Brien up into P number 14. But you got to think, is Victor Diaz going to be trying to fight back?
That is the question. I think Peter O'Brien is the faster of the 2 drivers at this point in time. I did notice the gap came down again. It was Timothy Flanger, who was very close up behind Jeremy Mercer, and Mr. Sir getting close up to that one as well. I saw the deltas drop very, very low indeed earlier on, but they only expanded later in the lap. This might be another situation of that. Andrew Rados right up on the bumper of Guy Manperson, the silver leader, who is not looking like he's going to be taking the silver win on this outing in the BMW. But there's not a whole lot that you can do to follow so closely through the old hairpin. You want to try to nail your braking point as best you can, but when you're following that car in front, you have to give a little bit of space, and Rados only knows that too well after they got spun around to the first of the 2 hairpins.
Yeah, it's all over the place. Let's be an eye out. But of course, many people with recovery drives, and you have got to majorly respect it, as Escorcia looking for a move on the Ford maybe. Holy moly, guacamole, cheese balls, as we head down into Melbourne Hairpin once again around the outside. It's going to be almost identical, as that is definitely the Ford putting his elbows out.
Did a little bit of rear quarter panel contact there for Omar Escorcia, Mikhail Charles. But they get through it cleanly. That's the kind of argy-bargy that we want to see, not the, you know, we had a little bit of, you know, drivers trying to get a little bit aggressive earlier on in the race, and that's all we're going to say about it. But that is what we love to see. He's just getting a little bit close together, you know, maybe give him a little bit of a love tap, remind him that you're there and that you are trying to fight for that position, but nothing more. And not really interrupting the traction there for Mikhail Charles. He was able to pull away from that one relatively easily. Jeremy Mercer has got to be so frustrated right about now. 4 minutes in change left to go in this race. Jeff Spangler is still not checked in to this battle, so it looks like he's holding position for a P8 finish right about now. Travis Robinson is only 2 seconds behind him, but that doesn't necessarily feel like it's going to culminate in a battle. There are many gaps that are very low. Mia Rose, what a dive that was for Jeremy Mercer. I looked over to my timing screen for just a second, and he got past. Huge move there for Mercer into the podium spots. He gets past with almost no contest, it felt like there.
Yeah, no, I didn't even see that coming. Like, you looked at your timing screen, I'm staring at it, but that is an incredibly late move. No wonder we didn't see that coming. He was right up the gearbox of Mia Rose, pulls out last second, goes down the inside. You got to respect it. A little bit of contact on the rear end, but you can't really change that much. But nice and beautiful move for Jeremy Mercer up at a P3. And it's going to be these guys right now. Timothy Flamger, Mr. Sir, and Jeff, and Merecki, who are going to be battling, as it is going to be the Aston Martin on the back of the 747 Ford, and of course the 747 Ford is on the back of an Aston Martin. So the American seeming to be in between a good old British sandwich.
The American. I feel like there's something there, but I'm just gonna ignore it for now. We'll see how this pans out. So if it continues, but now Mia Rose is going to be potentially under pressure from Flamger behind. Flamger, who's going to be almost certainly enamored with the idea of having the opportunity to move up into P4 and potentially even P3, is this gap has not opened up here. Jeremy Mercer, as I mentioned before, fresher tires, okay, by a fair margin, because Mia Rose went for the giga undercut, and it worked out in terms of track position, but she's kind of struggling now to hold on to that position. Jeremy Mercer was able to get by Timothy Flamger. He's only bringing that gap down slowly, but there's only a couple of laps to go here. I believe we're going to get the white flag on the next lap as the number 20 car is coming in through McLean's right now. The number 20 car, who has not been on our screen frequently tonight because we hate cursing drivers, but who has driven a phenomenal, just a tremendous race from Travis Nordstrom, and I think proving that the NSX can compete.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Japanese car after all, and those cars are notorious for once you get them correct and once you've tuned them properly, as that's a bit of contact, as that is Velez getting past Rust, I believe. Oh, no, was that Velez? Yes, that was Velez going for the move there, as it was nice and clean, nice and easy peasy, and a beautiful move down the inside into the good old Goddard's hairpin once again. As the real question is when we're going to get the white flag. It's going to be happening very, very shortly, I do believe.
According to my engineer, I think we just got the white flag actually, so this is going to be the last lap of racing once they cross this timing line.
Nice. So it's all comes. So once you cross the timing lines, it's all coming down to this, the final lap. One last ride of the Donington Park circuit here in round number 5. It is battling. It's a 5-car battle. However, it looks like the top 3 may be confirmed, as it is going to be all the way to the checkered flag once again. And the leader, of course, he's had an absolute incredible race so far. And you see him on the map. He's going through McLean's into Cop Ice, and he's heading down the Starkeys. Dre, you cannot take away from him, and you cannot take away from this battle right now, as it is still Flamger chasing down Mia Rose. However, as we look to him once again, Travis Nordstrom, as it stays like this, we have had 5 races so far in season number 11, and he is going to be the 4th race winner. Round 1 was Michael Menning, Round 2, Mia Rose. Round 3, Michael Menning. Round 4 was Dominic Duran. And now, as he comes round the final corner of Goodhart's, as he goes pedal to the metal one last time, Nordstrom wins the Donington GP, and what a win into British countryside. But and he absolutely deserves it. Back to this battle though, as it's all over the place. However, it looks like it's all locked in, unless it is going to be some late dives. But as we head around the final corner once again, it's going to be Spect who comes on P2, Mercer P3, Mia Rose unlucky into P4, Flamge P5, Sir P6, Mariki P7, Spangler P8, Robinson P9, and then Quig P10.
What a finish for Brooker Quig as well, but what a tremendous outing for Travis Nordstrom. Nate Specht, a very respectable position to finish. He's going to be wishing he had the opportunity to take the fight to the race leader, but more gaps coming down. This is, oh, Max Simons down to the line here with Mikhail Charles. Will just about lose out on that one. Andrew Rados coming across a little bit behind, who is hoping to have a bit of a return to the top 10 after their finish at Spa-Francorchamps. Did not pan out for them. Gustavo Sanz could have afforded a better finish here too, but it was not in it for them tonight. I saw Petrocross actually went into the pit lane, was I think in the top 25 or so, but went into the pit lane late in the race and will end up finishing all the way down at the very bottom of the field. But that is the last of the cars across the line, and what a drive it has been for some of these racers. But Nordstrom just takes the cake. I mean, normally you wouldn't want to do driver of the day for the pole sitter who just goes on to take the win, but his pace was unreal today.
Oh, well, you say that as your driver of the day. For me, it's Jeff Spangler. Like, P32 all the way up to P8. Like, for you, it may be Nordstrom, but for me, I've got to give it to Jeff Spangler. Absolutely amazing drive for him, as well as his teammate Mia Rose, actually, for basically a good performance all around for We're a Barber team, as well as Mr. Sir, actually. Mr. Michael Menning, of course, not being here today, so Mr. Sir showing the worth in that team as well, and why he is here to stay in the 747 Ford.
Yeah, impressive performances for many drivers, as you were talking about. We'll take a look here. I'll bring over my race control so you can kind of see where we ended up finishing. Mikhail Charles ended up 14 positions forward, if my race control is to be believed, which I think might be a little bit skewed. But, you know, starting grid 27 and in towards the top 15, that's certainly a solid performance. Major improvement. Max Simon's kind of in the same boat. So a couple of great stories here. Brooker Quig, who I mentioned had a drive-through penalty late in the race, was fighting for a top 15 spot at Spa and ends up in the top 10 this race. Phenomenal stuff there. Jeremy Mercer, Nate Specht, Mia Rose, as you were talking about. Really, anybody who finished in the top 5 had a good race out today. Timothy Flanger returning into the top 5 too. Mr. Sir, a little bit of a tumble this race. You know, was in, I believe it was the 5th position, and ended up losing out on that spot to Timothy Flanger as he was going for a little bit of a fight. Who knows where they would have been if he had been able to make that move stick and really start to try to hunt down Mia.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if it was just a little bit longer, maybe even if it was 10 minutes longer, it would have been the time for the overtakes. However, of course, you do get very unlucky, and that's just the way of sim racing, to be honest. And of course, you gotta get used to it. You restart and you go again. And I'm guessing this is where we wrap up. So, Andrew, your final thoughts on this evening? So, on this race this evening.
Well, it certainly was action-packed at the beginning. I don't think there's any denying that. But I know we didn't quite catch the action live as it was happening. There was a lot of movement, you know, up and down the field. It certainly looked like it was going to be a relatively clean lap 1 up at the front, with the potential for a little bit of motion. And then we saw at the tail end what all was going on. And oh man, it was something. Andrew Rados, I think, really got the short end of the stick with that turnaround at Melbourne hairpin as well. But apart from that, you know, we saw some quality battles, a little bit more overtaking than I think I actually expected here for Donington. Very narrow circuit, but they made it happen. I think overtake of the day for me, I'm kind of torn. I know that we had a follow through from Eric Marecki against Mr. Sir, but we also had that dive from Jeremy Mercer onto the podium spot.
Yeah, that dive is definitely going to be one to look out for. My final thoughts is we need more British tracks, please, because they are. Most people say that they're bad because they're hard to overtake on. I think Donington tonight has proved everybody wrong and everybody on the grid. Apart from the first few laps, D1, I'm going to give you a bit of a slap on the. Andrew gave you a slap on the wrist last week. I'm going to give you. It's my job to give you a slap on the wrist this week because it's my home circuit. Thank you very much. So I'm giving you a slap on the wrist this week for those lap 1 incidents. But overall, good racing all around. And of course, this is round 5. Round 6 does not return it next week. It returns in 2 weeks' time, as we do have a mid-season break coming up. And of course, I've been Alexa Marshall with Andrew Rife. Selena should be back with us for the Nürburgring Nordschleife, which of course is going to be round 6, which will bring an end to the Europeans portion of the season before we go back over to where Andrew can brag about his home Grand Prix, because he's got 2 American Grand Prix to have fun about, of course, at COTA and Watkins Glen. But once again, I've been Alexa Marshall with Andrew Rife. This has been SRA. Good night.